tough stuff. Are you writing out there right now? Because you should be with that backdrop.
Yeah, it's so I came out here with a number of intentions that so I'm writing in one way songwriting and one way speech writing. There's an organization called La Tevin, which is the Nashville wine auction that raises buku bucks nationwide for cancer research, and I lost my husband to cancer years ago, and so I've become super involved with this organization and donated my skills as a songwriter and a performer to them over the years, and now I'm in charge of giving the keynote speech in a couple of weeks. And so it was so great to be able to come out here to Joe and Barb, who was like one of me and Moss's like best friends. Like, they know him, they know the honor of him, they know the legacy of him, and to be able to work on this speech and get that all polished. And then also I'm participating for the first time ever in this organization called Operation Song, which writes songs with veterans and writes about their experience, or tries to encapsulate their experience in the military and just as human beings. And so I'm doing that, and then I'm playing a series of shows, and then I'm also going to go. One of my best friends is a amazing producer and guitar player in Portland, Oregon, Dominic Schmidt. I'm going to go out there next Monday and record a bunch of new songs.
Nice. So yeah, I love the Operation Song thing. There's a few really reputable. Oh my God, that's hard to say.
Yeah.
Veteran songwriters organizations that I really love, and I'm glad that you're part of that, because those are really cool experiences, but from both sides, I know.
I've never been a part of anything like that. I think I have my own post-traumatic stress
Sure.
and
Yeah.
my late husband's illness and his death and everything. So I've never felt that I had thick enough skin to dive into anyone else's life too closely.
Yeah.
And but something has changed this year where I find the skin is tough enough. So I'm looking forward to, being there for this other person.
And isn't it nice to know that you can still grow even as we get
Yeah.
older, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Who's getting older though?
No, I mean, none of us are, right? Yeah. I got you. I got you. Let's talk about back in the beginning. So I understand, just reading about you, you were born in Stamford, Connecticut. Is that correct?
It's such a confusing thing. Yeah, sort of. I lived there for all of 48 hours.
Wow.
My mom's water broke in Connecticut, and so I was born in Connecticut. But
So
that's what's on my certificate. So
not necessarily a Yankee then, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, we lived in New York City. So my family lived in New York City, on the Upper West Side until I was like two and a half. And then we moved to multiple other places. But yes, I was born in Stamford, Connecticut by 48 hours.
So let's set the record straight then. What would you say is your hometown?
I would have to say Nashville, because we moved there when I was 14.
Sure.
Up until then, between of the age of 0 to 14, I lived in so many places and countries that I don't really have any sense of that. So it wasn't really till we finally stayed somewhere that I developed a sense of self. Yeah.
Was that moving around? Was that military related or job related?
My dad was, and spoke multiple languages fluently. He was an immigrant, European immigrant. So from his family, because of his family, he spoke German and English and Portuguese and things like that. And so he was a translator for KLM, the Royal Dutch Airlines, which is the only way I can say it. I can't actually not say KLM, the Royal Dutch Airlines, without saying the two together. And so that's what he was doing in my beginning years of life. And that's, largely what made us move around.
Well, I'm excited about kind of picking that apart too, because I feel like your formative years always kind of show their head, right, when you get older and whatever you end up doing. But before we really pick that apart, can you kind of remember what your first musical memories were, like when music found you for the first time?
Well, this is so great, because I was literally just down the street here. And when I say down the street, down the beach is easier to say. I was down the beach, 7 houses down the beach on Puget Sound with Joe and Barb and their neighbors. And we were all watching these birds basically catch a gigantic fish. And I said, a lot of people want to know what started off my songwriting career. And I don't think it was a song. It was a piece of poetry that my grandfather taught me. And it goes, "What a wonderful bird is the pelican. His mouth can hold more than his belly can. He can hold in his beak enough food for a week, although I don't know how in the hell it can."
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that was like, all I wanted to do was write like I don't even know. Is that like iambic pentameters? I don't even know. But the point is, I wrote like 10,000 million of those on my life. Like that was like my little childhood, joy thing. That, and then, when I was when we moved to Nashville, and we moved to Green Hills Terrace, which was this condominium complex, and I had a little Huffy bicycle, and I wasn't allowed to cross Hillsborough Road. I was only allowed to stay on my parents' condominium side
I
of the
remember
street.
those days. Yep.
Yeah. And so lo and behold, I'm biking around, and I would notice there were people always standing outside of this little building, this little house. And one day I stopped and asked them, and they said, "Oh, this is a music venue. It has music shows twice a day, 7 days a week. It's called the Bluebird Cafe." And I was
Wow.
like, "Oh, that's cool." Yeah. And at the time, my parents were getting ready to open up a restaurant in Nashville. So, and I at this point, they were pretty involved with restaurants. So it wasn't like a restaurant wasn't a weird thing. And so I'm biking around one day. I don't know how soon after I found out it was the Bluebird Cafe, but whatever it was the summertime before I start school. And I'm biking around the parking lot, and I see this guy outside smoking a cigarette, standing on the balcony of what was clearly like a kitchen, and had the dumpsters and everything. And I said, "Is this the kitchen of the Bluebird?" And he goes, "Yeah, it is." And so I park my Huffy. I imagine it to be a Concord grape purple Huffy,
Okay.
but or a hot pink or something like that,
Yeah.
And I walked in through the kitchen, and I remember this part clear as day. I walked in through the kitchen, just sort of walked in like I knew what I was doing, and walked in through the little back door, and the sound person looked at me, and they just sort of pointed, like gave me a little come this way, and they pointed at this little sheet, this little shelf in the back of the Bluebird. And I just sat there at this shelf and watched like the Bluebird, watched the show. And I must have watched like 5 or 6 of those shows, when one night, like the sound person says to me, "What would be a really great show for you to go see is Don Schlitz. Don Schlitz plays Don for a Dollar on
Mm-hmm.
Monday nights. He plays the Late Show." And I kind of knew enough to know, or it wasn't Monday nights. I don't know what night it was. It was a night. And I knew enough. It was like the 8:30, 9 o'clock show. Well, that was a completely different creature than going and sneaking out at 6 o'clock at night. So I
Mm-hmm.
knew now that I knew I had to come clean with my parents if I was going to take this up a notch. And so I told them what I wanted to do, and my mom said she'd come with me. And so I got to watch Don Schlitz and Alan Shamblin, and
Golly.
that was
So
it. That's it.
what a big role from somebody like a sound guy, right? Just letting you in instead of
Yeah,
kicking you out.
yeah. It was amazing. It
Wow.
was it was when I think about it now, it's like and not to say that all the others weren't great. All the other songwriters were great and everything, but one, they were maybe awkward in between in their stories, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe their songs weren't so great, or maybe it was more like they were too jokey, or they were irreverent or whatever. And it was like everything that Don and Alan did were exactly perfect, even though they were completely different personalities, completely different types of humor. I mean, Alan Jackson is the sweetest, you know, puppy dog panda bear of a human being. And then like Alan Shamblin would be like, I'm trying to think, he's like a golden retriever and a panda bear. And then then Don is like a blue-heeled tick and a grizzly bear. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah.
Be more,
Yeah.
but they're just lovely, and they were so articulate and so welcoming and kind to me.
And
Yeah.
so ridiculously talented too.
Yeah.
Like you guys out there, I mean, if you're into songwriting, you know who they are. But if you're not,
Yeah.
you need to check them out.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've sung along with their songs. I assure you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
And I was also, it was amazing because I wasn't old enough to understand some of their songs. Like I didn't comprehend like The Gambler. I did not understand what that meant.
Hmm.
I did not understand the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. I didn't understand. I thought he walked on water. I didn't understand. I can't make you love me if you don't. This was,
Hmm.
several years later, but I knew they were great. And I knew that I had to get enough life experience in me to try to harness that.